The huge glass doors of the Galactic Academy of Sciences slid open. Kim Ji-won took a deep breath and stepped inside. His heart beat fast as he looked up at the tall, curved ceiling. Light from 3 different suns came through the special windows. The main hall was full of beings from many planets. Ji-won gripped his small bag tighter. After traveling for 3 weeks on the Earth Federation ship, he was finally here. The first human ever accepted to study at the most famous school in the galaxy. "Humans to the left registration desk," said a flat, computer voice. Ji-won looked around. He saw no other humans. Of course not. He was the only one who had passed the entrance exam this year. At the desk sat a tall, thin alien with blue skin. 4 eyes blinked at different times as Ji-won approached. The alien's name tag read, "Administrative Officer Zorlak." "Identification," Zorlak said without looking up. Ji-won held out his palm. The small chip under his skin glowed. Zorlak waved a scanner over it. "Kim Ji-won, Earth, Human, First Year, Advanced Physics Program." Zorlak's voice showed no emotion. "Interesting. Your test scores must be wrong." "Excuse me?" Ji-won asked. "No human has scored this high before. There must be an error." 2 of Zorlak's eyes narrowed. "The review board will check this. For now, you may proceed to orientation." Ji-won nodded and moved on. He was used to this. Ever since humans joined the Galactic Federation 30 years ago, most aliens saw them as the new kids. The slow ones. The simple ones. The ones who had only recently stopped killing each other over land and resources. The orientation hall was a big room with curved rows of seats going up like stairs. Hundreds of new students sat there. Ji-won found an empty spot. In the back row, next to him sat a green-skinned being with long fingers. The alien glanced at Ji-won and moved 1 seat away. A tall figure walked onto the stage. Professor Dakthar, the famous Viridian physicist, stood before them. His purple skin seemed to glow under the lights. The 4 lobes on his head pulsed slightly as he began to speak. "Welcome to the Galactic Academy of Sciences. You are the best minds from 127 worlds." His voice boomed without a microphone. "You have been chosen to learn, to discover, and to advance knowledge." Dakthar's upper eyes swept across the crowd. "Some of you come from ancient civilizations with thousands of years of space travel. Others," his gaze seemed to find Ji-won, "are from younger species who have only recently learned to leave their planets." Ji-won kept his face calm, but his hands formed fists in his lap. "Over the next 5 years, you will be challenged. Many of you will fail. This is expected. Science does not wait for the slow or the simple." After orientation, Ji-won followed his room assignment to the East Tower. His room was small but comfortable. A bed, a desk, a window looking out at the rings of the planet below. On the desk was a tablet with his class schedule, first class tomorrow, Advanced Astrophysics, with Professor Dakthar. The classroom was unlike anything on Earth. Instead of chairs, there were floating cushions. The walls displayed moving star maps. 26 students from 12 different species sat waiting. Professor Dakthar entered. His 4 brain lobes pulsed with energy. "Today we begin with the basics of multidimensional gravity wells." He touched a control panel. A complex model of swirling energies appeared in the center of the room. "Who can tell me the formula for calculating drift in a 9-body system?" Several hands went up. Dakthar pointed to a student with metallic skin. "Zorl, please," the Altharian student answered in a musical voice. Ji-won listened carefully, making notes in his paper notebook. Other students used neural link recorders that saved information directly to their memory centers. Ji-won's old-fashioned method made a few nearby aliens snicker. After Zorl finished, Ji-won raised his hand. He had noticed something missing in the answer. Dakthar's eyes passed over him as if he weren't there. "Correct, Zorl. Now, moving on to—" "Excuse me, Professor," Ji-won said. All four of Dakthar's eyes turned to him, two narrowing in annoyance. "The human has something to add," Dakthar said. The way he said human made it sound like child. "In a 9-body system, shouldn't we also account for quantum resonance between the 5th and 7th bodies? According to Heisenberg's extended principle?" Silence filled the room. Then several students laughed. Dakthar's skin color shifted from purple to a deeper blue. Heisenberg's work was primitive. "We use Zakhavorth's unified field theories now." Dakthar's voice was cold. "This is why humans are still struggling with basic warp technology, while the rest of us explore the outer arms of the galaxy." More laughter. Jiwan's face grew warm, but he kept his expression neutral. "However," Dakthar continued, "for someone with your limited background, it was an interesting attempt. Let's move on." After class, Jiwan walked alone through the great hall. Other students moved in groups, talking excitedly in many languages. No one looked at him. No one invited him to join. This was going to be a long 5 years. 3 weeks later, Jiwan sat in the back of the advanced astrophysics class. He had learned to keep quiet, to observe, to take notes. His paper notebook was now half full with careful drawings and formulas. "Your first major assignment," Dakthar announced, "will test your ability to apply theoretical knowledge to practical problems." The professor waved his hand, and a hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a star system with planets, moons, and a large object moving through space. "This is a real situation from last year. A meteorite was detected approaching the 3rd moon of Centauri Prime. Your task is to calculate its exact trajectory, impact point, and damage radius." Data flowed across the walls: mass measurements, velocity vectors, gravitational influences from nearby bodies. "The Galactic Defense Fleet solved this problem in 4 hours, Dakthar said. "You have until the end of the week." Excited murmurs filled the room. Students immediately began forming study groups. The Viridians gathered near the front, their 4 brain lobes pulsing with energy. The Altharians, with their metallic skin, formed another group. No one looked at Jiwan. He didn't mind. He had gotten used to working alone. Jiwan downloaded the data to his tablet and began reviewing it. The problem was complex, with multiple variables interacting in ways that required differential equations, but something about it looked familiar. As everyone else left the classroom to begin their group work, Jiwan stayed behind. He drew diagrams in his notebook, working through the basic physics. Earth scientists had been tracking meteorites since the early space program. The math was old, but it still worked. Professor Dakthar gathered his materials, then noticed Jiwan still sitting there. "Human," he said, "perhaps you should find a study group. This assignment may be beyond your species' capabilities." Jiwan looked up. "Thank you for your concern, Professor, but I think I'll be fine." Dakthar made a sound that might have been a laugh. "We shall see." He walked out, leaving Jiwan alone with his paper notebook and simple tablet. Jiwan smiled to himself as he continued. Working. Earth had been calculating meteorite trajectories since before they even had good computers. He already saw a pattern in the data. This would be interesting. That night, Jiwan did not sleep. The lights of his small room stayed on as he worked in his paper notebook. Page after page filled with numbers, diagrams, and formulas. His tablet sat on the desk, displaying the data from Professor Dakthar's assignment. The meteorite problem was complex. Most students would use the Academy's quantum computers to run thousands of calculations. They would follow the standard method taught in galactic textbooks. But Jiwan saw a different way. Earth scientists solved problems like this with slide rules and early computers, he said to himself. There must be a shortcut. He remembered his classes back in Seoul. His teacher, Mr. Park, had shown them the old methods that NASA used in the 1960s. They were not perfect, but they were fast. They gave answers that were close enough to be useful. Jiwon drew a new diagram. This time, he ignored some of the smaller gravity forces that only made tiny changes to the path. He focused on the big forces, the pull of the main planet, the speed and weight of the meteorite, the air around the moon. "I don't need to be exact," he whispered. "I just need to be close." By 3 in the morning, he had his answer. The meteorite would hit the north side of the moon's largest city. It would make a crater about 4 kilometers wide. His math showed this with 99.8% certainty. Jiwon checked his work 3 times. Each time he got the same answer. He smiled, then finally went to bed, sleeping for just 4 hours before his morning class. The next day, the advanced astrophysics classroom buzzed with activity. Students compared notes and argued about methods. The Viridians sat together, all 4 of their brain lobes glowing as they shared mental calculations. The Altharians had built a small physical model with floating lights. Jiwon walked to his usual spot in the back. The green-skinned alien who usually sat far away from him looked up in surprise. "You look happy," the alien said in careful standard. "Galactic." "I am," Jiwon answered. "I finished the assignment." The alien's 3 eyes blinked rapidly. "Impossible. Even our group has only set up the basic equations." Jiwon shrugged. "We'll see." Professor Dakthar entered the room. The class went quiet. His 4 eyes scanned the students. "I assume most of you are still working on the meteorite problem," he said. "Today we will continue with our regular lesson. Plan. On Friday, you will submit your answers, and we will compare them to the actual solution from the defense fleet." "Professor," Jiwon said, raising his hand. All 4 of Dakthar's eyes turned to him, showing surprise. "Yes, human?" "I've completed the assignment. I can submit my answer now if you'd like." The room went completely silent. Then several students laughed. The Viridian group leader, Tral, spoke up. "Professor, the human is clearly confused. The calculations would take at least 3 days with quantum computing support." Dakthar's skin changed to a deeper purple color. "Indeed. Perhaps our Earth friend misunderstood the assignment." He looked at Jiwon. "We are calculating the exact trajectory of a real meteorite, not making a guess." Jiwon stood up. "I understand the assignment, Professor. I have calculated that the meteorite will hit the northern sector of Moon City, creating a crater approximately 4 kilometers wide. The impact speed will be 17.3 kilometers per second." More laughter filled the room. Dakthar's upper set of eyes narrowed. "And how exactly did you arrive at this answer? Without using the Academy's quantum computers?" "I used a simplified approach, based on Earth's early space program methods," Jiwon explained. "We developed approximation techniques when our computing power was limited." Dakthar walked up the steps to where Jiwon sat. He held out his hand. "Show me." Jiwon handed over his notebook. The professor flipped through the pages, his eyes moving quickly over the diagrams and equations. The class watched in silence. Slowly, Dakthar's skin color changed from purple to a lighter blue, then to yellow, a sign of surprise in Viridians. "This can't be right," he muttered. "You've ignored quantum fluctuations and microgravity fields. Those forces make very small changes to the path," Jiwon explained. "Less than 0.2% difference in the final result. For a fast calculation, we can leave them out." Dakthar took Jiwon's tablet and checked the data again. Then he looked back at the notebook. "This method," Dakthar began, his voice softer now. "Where did you learn it?" "High school physics, Professor. On Earth, we call it the Apollo method. NASA used it to calculate paths for moon landings when computers were very basic." Dakthar stood silent for a long moment. The class watched, confused by his reaction. Finally, he walked back to the front of the room, still holding Jiwon's notebook. "Class is dismissed early today," he announced. "Continue working on your assignments. I need to verify something." As students gathered their things, many looked at Ji-won with new interest. The green alien next to him leaned closer. "I am Tila," she said. "Would you explain your method to me sometime?" Before Ji-won could answer, Professor Dakthar called out, "Mr. Kim, please come to my office in 1 hour." Dakthar's office was filled with strange devices and old books. Star maps covered one wall. The professor sat behind a curved desk, Ji-won's notebook open in front of him. A large screen showed, "Complex calculations running. Sit down, Mr. Kim," Dakthar said. It was the first time he had used Ji-won's name. Ji-won sat in the offered chair. "Is there a problem with my work, Professor?" "That's what I'm trying to determine." Dakthar's 4 eyes blinked in different patterns. "I've been running your calculations through our most advanced systems and comparing them to the Defense Fleet's actual answer." The screen beeped. Dakthar looked at it, then back at Ji-won. "Your answer is correct. Not just close. Exactly correct. The impact point, the crater size, the speed." Dakthar's voice held disbelief. "The Defense Fleet's computers took 4 hours to reach this conclusion. You did it in 1 night with paper." "The method is efficient," Ji-won said simply. "But how? You ignored factors that our science says are essential." Ji-won leaned forward. "Professor, when humans first went to space, we had computers less powerful than this." He held up his simple tablet. "We had to find ways to make big problems smaller, to focus on what matters most, the big forces, not the tiny ones." "And this Apollo method is taught to human children?" Dakthar asked. "Yes. It's basic physics on Earth. Every student learns it." Dakthar stood and walked to the star map. "In all my years teaching, I've never seen this approach. The galactic standard is to calculate everything, down to the smallest force." "That's one way," Ji-won agreed. "But sometimes a simple way works just as well." "Or better," Dakthar said quietly. He turned back to face Ji-won. "Mr. Kim, I believe I owe you an apology." "Professor?" "I assumed that humans, being new to space travel, would have nothing to teach more advanced species. I was wrong." Dakthar's skin had turned a soft blue color. "This method of yours, it could change how we approach many problems." Ji-won didn't know what to say. This was not what he had expected. "Tomorrow," Dakthar continued, "I would like you to present your solution to the class. Would you be willing to teach this Apollo method to your classmates?" For the first time since arriving at the academy, Ji-won smiled widely. "Yes, Professor. I would like that very much." The next day, the advanced astrophysics classroom was completely full. Word had spread through the academy. Students from other classes stood at the back. Even a few professors had come to watch. Ji-won felt his heart beat fast as he stood at the front of the room. His paper notebook was connected to the room's display system. His simple drawings now floated as large holograms for everyone to see. Professor Dakthar stood beside him. "Today, we have something unusual," he told the class. "Mr. Kim will present his solution to the meteorite problem. As many of you know, he completed the assignment in 1 night using a method unknown to our galactic scientific community." Whispers filled the room. The Viridian students looked unhappy. Trail, their group leader, spoke up. "Professor, with respect, how can a human teach us anything about advanced astrophysics? Their species has barely left their own solar system." "A fair question," Dakthar said. His 4 eyes turned to Ji-won. "Mr. Kim, perhaps you could explain how your species approached space travel problems before you had advanced computers?" Ji-won took a deep breath. "Thank you, Professor." He faced the class. "When humans first went to space, we had to solve complex problems with simple tools. We couldn't calculate every tiny force. So we focused on the main ones." He pointed to his first diagram. "For the meteorite problem, I first identified the 4 biggest forces affecting its path. The pull of the planet, the pull of the moon, the speed of the meteorite, the air it would hit, Tral interrupted. But what about quantum fluctuations, microgravity fields, solar wind pressure? Those forces are real, Jiwon agreed, but they change the final answer by less than 0.2%. When you need a fast answer, you can leave them out. A tall Altharian student raised her hand. But that's not exact science. We're taught to calculate everything. Sometimes you don't have time for exact, Jiwon said. Imagine you're on a spaceship. A meteorite is coming. You have minutes to decide what to do. Do you want a perfect answer in 4 hours or a 99.8% correct answer in 5 minutes? The room went quiet. Jiwon continued explaining his method. He showed how he had simplified the complex equations, how he had combined steps, how he had used patterns from old Earth space missions to check his work. This is what we call the Apollo method, he said, named after our first moon missions. Every human physics student learns it. It's not perfect, but it's fast and good enough for most problems. As he spoke, he saw faces change. Some students looked interested. Others looked confused. The Viridians still seemed skeptical, but they were taking notes now. When Jiwon finished his explanation, Professor Dakthar stepped forward again. I have confirmed Mr. Kim's calculations, he told the class. His answer matches the defense fleet's solution exactly, but he found it in 1 night, not 4 hours, and he used only basic tools, not quantum computers. Silence filled the room. Then someone started clapping. It was Tila, the green-skinned student who had spoken to Jiwon yesterday. Others joined in. Soon, most of the room was applauding. Tral and the other Viridians did not clap. They whispered, among themselves, their brain lobes pulsing quickly. After class, students surrounded Jiwon. They had questions. Many questions. For the first time since arriving at the academy, people wanted to talk to him, to learn from him. Could this method work for plotting starship jumps? Asked an Altharian student. Would it help calculate black hole approaches? Asked another. Jiwon answered as best he could. He felt strange being the center of attention after months of being ignored. Tila stayed after the others left. You've caused quite a stir, she said. No one expected a human to teach us something new. I didn't expect it either, Jiwon admitted. I just did what I learned back home. That's what makes it amazing, she said. You showed us that different isn't always worse. Sometimes it's better. That evening, Jiwon received a message from Professor Dakthar asking him to come to the faculty meeting hall. When he arrived, he was surprised to see many professors gathered there, along with the academy's director. Director Lomat was a tall being from an ancient species. His long white hair floated around his head as if underwater. He approached Jiwon with graceful steps. Mr. Kim, he said in a deep voice. Professor Dakthar has told us about your interesting solution. Would you be willing to share more of these human methods with us? Jiwon looked around the room. Dozens of the galaxy's greatest scientists were watching him, waiting for his answer. Of course, he said. But I'm just a first-year student. I only know basic Earth science. Sometimes basic is exactly what we need, Director Lomat said. Our scientific community has grown complex over thousands of years. Perhaps we have forgotten some simpler truths along the way. Professor Dakthar stepped forward. His skin was now a calm blue color. Mr. Kim, we would like you to work with a team of professors to document these human methods. We believe they could be valuable across many fields. Me? Jiwon could hardly believe what he was hearing. Yes, said the director. And we would like to invite more human students and teachers to the academy. Perhaps there are other Earth approaches. We should learn. As Jiwon looked around the room, he saw something he never expected. Respect. These advanced beings from species that had traveled the stars for thousands of years wanted to learn from humans. I would be honored, Jiwon said. and I know many Earth scientists who would be excited to share their knowledge." "Excellent," Director Lomat said. "We will make arrangements immediately." As the meeting continued, Professor Dakthar pulled Ji-won aside. "I must tell you something," the professor said quietly. "When you first arrived, I did not believe you belonged here. I thought humans were too new, too primitive for our academy." "I know," Ji-won said. "I was wrong," Dakthar continued. "Your solution proved that different perspectives have value. That wisdom can come from unexpected places." He paused. "I have been teaching for 300 years, but yesterday, I learned something new. Thank you for that lesson." Ji-won smiled. "In human schools, we have a saying, the best teacher is also always a student." Dakthar's 4 eyes blinked in what might have been a smile. A wise saying indeed. As they rejoined the group, Ji-won felt a new sense of belonging. He was no longer just the human or an outsider. He had earned his place at the Galactic Academy of Sciences, and he had opened a door for other humans to follow. But as he looked across the room, he noticed Tral and several other Viridian students watching from the doorway. Their brain lobes pulsed with dark colors. Not everyone was happy about this new respect for humans, and Ji-won knew that one success did not erase centuries of prejudice. His journey was just beginning. 3 months had passed since Ji-won solved the meteorite problem. Life at the Galactic Academy had changed in ways he never expected. The small classroom where Ji-won now taught was different from the grand halls where he had once sat as a silent student. Here, 30 aliens from 15 different species gathered 3 times a week to learn human practical physics. The Academy had made it an official course after students kept asking about Earth methods. "Today we will talk about how humans calculate gravity assists," Ji-won said to his class. "This is how we sent spacecraft to distant planets with very little fuel." In the front row sat Tila, who had become Ji-won's first friend at the Academy. Next to her was Loon, an Altharian student who had originally doubted human science, but now took careful notes. Even 2 Viridians had joined the class, though Tral was not among them. As Ji-won explained the simple math that helped Earth's early space program, he saw genuine interest in their eyes. These brilliant beings from advanced worlds were learning from a human. It still felt strange. After class, Professor Dakthar entered the room. The students greeted him with respect before leaving. "How was today's lesson?" Dakthar asked. "Good," Ji-won said. "They're starting to understand that sometimes simple is better." Dakthar nodded. His skin was the calm blue color that Ji-won now knew meant he was pleased. "The faculty meeting is about to begin. The Earth delegation has arrived." Ji-won's heart beat faster. "They're here already? I thought they weren't coming until next week." "They arrived early. Director Lomat is very eager to meet them." Together, they walked to the Great Hall. The space had been prepared for an important ceremony. Academy officials in formal robes stood in a half-circle. In the center stood 5 humans in Earth Federation uniforms. Ji-won recognized Dr. Lee, his old physics teacher from Seoul. Dr. Lee saw him and smiled widely. "Ji-won, there you are!" They greeted each other in Korean, bowing slightly. Then Dr. Lee switched to Standard Galactic so everyone could understand. "We have heard so much about you," she said. "Your discovery has caused quite a stir back on Earth." "Wasn't really a discovery," Ji-won said. "I just used what you taught me." "Sometimes the most important discoveries are old ideas in new places," Dr. Lee said. She looked around at the Grand Hall. "We never thought the Galactic Academy would ask for human teachers. This is a big moment for Earth." Director Lomat stepped forward. His floating white hair seemed extra bright today. "Welcome, Earth educators," he said in his deep voice. "Today marks the beginning of a new chapter in galactic science. We have much to learn from each other." The ceremony began. Speeches were made. Promises of cooperation were exchanged. 5 human teachers would stay at the academy for 1 year. 5 academy professors would go to Earth. A new era of sharing knowledge had begun. During the reception that followed, Ji-won stood with Dr. Lee, watching aliens and humans talk together. "I'm proud of you," Dr. Lee said. "You've opened a door that many thought would stay closed for centuries." "I just solved a math problem," Ji-won said. "No, you did much more. You showed them that different doesn't mean worse, that humans have value," she smiled. "And you did it with math from the 1960s. Across the room, Ji-won noticed Trowel and several other Viridians watching. They did not look happy. After the reception, as people were leaving, Trowel approached Ji-won. The Viridians' 4 brain lobes pulsed with dark colors. "You think you've accomplished something great," Trowel said. His voice was cold. "One lucky calculation, and suddenly humans are supposed to be our equals?" Ji-won kept his face calm. "Science isn't about who is better than who. It's about finding the best way to solve problems. My species has been traveling between stars for 10,000 years, Trowel said. Yours barely knows how warp drives work. Don't expect this moment to last." Before Ji-won could answer, Professor Dakthar appeared beside them. All 4 of his eyes focused on Trowel. "Is there a problem here?" he asked. Trowel straightened his posture. "No, Professor, just a scientific discussion." "Good," Dakthar said. "Because true scientists judge ideas by their merit, not by who proposes them." His voice was firm. "Wouldn't you agree, Trowel?" The Viridian student's skin darkened. "Of course, Professor." He walked away quickly. "Don't worry about him," Dakthar told Ji-won. "Some take longer to accept new ideas than others." "It's okay," Ji-won said. "On Earth, we're used to proving ourselves." 1 week later, Ji-won sat in Professor Dakthar's advanced astrophysics class. But now he sat in the front row, no longer hiding in the back. Tila sat beside him, along with several other students who had become his friends. "Today," Professor Dakthar announced, "we have a new challenge." The hologram in the center of the room showed a complex star system with unusual energy patterns. "The Praxis anomaly," Dakthar explained. "A space-time distortion that has puzzled scientists for centuries. No one has been able to predict its movements." He looked directly at Ji-won. "I wonder if a human approach might offer a new perspective." Ji-won studied the swirling energies in the hologram. The patterns were strange, but something about them seemed familiar. "I'll need help," he said, looking at his new friends. Tila nodded. "A group approach, your human methods combined with our knowledge." "Exactly," Ji-won said. "Different minds working together." Professor Dakthar watched with all 4 eyes. His skin turned the bright blue color of approval. "That," he said, "is the true spirit of science." As class ended and students formed into mixed-species study groups, Ji-won realized how much had changed. 3 months ago, he had been alone in a place where no one believed humans belonged. Now he was part of something bigger. A bridge between Earth science and galactic knowledge. That evening, Ji-won wrote in his paper notebook, not equations this time, but a letter to his family back in Seoul. "Dear Mom and Dad," he wrote, "remember when I was afraid to come here? When I thought I would never fit in? Something amazing has happened. I solved a problem in a way no one here had seen before. It wasn't because I'm smarter than them. It's because I'm different. I see things differently. And that turned out to be exactly what was needed." He looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, new human students were preparing to join him at the academy. And academy professors were heading to Earth to learn human ways. "Sometimes," he continued writing, "the greatest discoveries come from the places no one thought to look. And sometimes, the simple ways are the best ways." He closed his notebook and smiled. His journey was just beginning. and so was humanity's new place among the stars. The end.